Some we will never get, others I think we can. So I think this is very much in the doable category. Part of what's happening, look, John Warner opposed the McCain-Lieberman climate change bill the two times John McCain and I put it on as an amendment on the floor of the Senate because we couldn't get it out of the committee at that point. Now he's the co-sponsor of the bill. And if you ask John Warner why, in his most eloquent but briefest answer, he says two words: science, grandchildren. I think that's happening. I think also people are hearing the voice of their constituents, and it is totally nonpartisan. People wanting us to do something about climate change. So that's what's moving it. I think if we can, this is dicey because, you know, we're trying to bring together quite a broad coalition of environmentalists and industrial stakeholders and sources of greenhouse gases, and it's a tough balance. But I believe we can do it. The House has a bill. They're going to probably wait until they see that we've passed something. If we do, I think Congressman Dingell, who's now forward-leaning on this, which is very significant, Congressman Boucher from Virginia, his ranking member, also very forward-leaning. I think they can pass the bill. Then the big question is, does President Bush sign it? And that's an open question, but here again, I'm really an optimist. I'm not basing this on anything, any conversations I've had. The White House has been moving on this issue over the years, but certainly still does not support the kind of cap and trade system that we have in this bill. On the other hand, I think if we get a bill through Congress, and this, remember, is gonna legislate for over 40 years with a required look back every 3 years to see how it's going, and Congress can get back in and tinker with it. I think we have a chance to get President Bush to sign it. But here's the other news that I think may affect behavior on this bill this year. Whoever is the Democratic candidate, whether it's Senator Clinton or Senator Obama and Senator McCain, in other words, the next president is going to be strongly in favor of legislation like the America's Climate Security Act. So while I say it's slightly over 50-50 this time, I think it's, nothing is 100% around here, but I think it goes way up toward 90% in the next session of Congress. And I just add this word about the EPA action on the Massachusetts decision. I think if for some reason the Congress doesn't act quickly in 2009 on this subject matter, I wouldn't be surprised if the next president uses the authority that the Supreme Court has acknowledged is there in the Clean Air Act to take executive branch action to begin to regulate greenhouse gas emissions nationally. And if that happens, you'll definitely see legislative action in the next session of Congress. So, you know, it's never there until it's there. That's my version of Yogi Berra. It ain't over until it's over. And remembering the late, great John Chafee, who once said that getting 60 votes on a piece of legislation like this is roughly equivalent to trying to herd cats. I've now called my colleagues both hopeless and cats this morning, but at least some of them. But so this is not going to be easy, but we can do it, and it's important that we do it. And I'm confident, bottom line, that by 2009 or early 2010, the latest, we will have done it. And that, incidentally, is timely. It should have been done earlier, but that is in advance of the 2012 date by which there has to be a global replacement to the Kyoto Protocol. Long answer, but that's really where this happens. Yes, ma'am.
Senator Lieberman, Senator Boxer has said that she will pull the bill from the floor if it is weakened. I was wondering if you could comment on what elements you would be willing to compromise on in order to get this bill passed, because as you said, it's important to move forward as quickly as possible, and what elements, if they were weakened, you would want it off the floor yourself.
Yeah. I'm not going to give you a direct answer to that question. I mean, there's a framework here, which is the basic cap and trade idea. You know, we decided not to go for a carbon tax increase, for instance, because it's not clear to me that a carbon tax increase gets you what you want. It probably does reduce consumption, but does it get you to the targets that we need to get to do what we need to do to avert the problem? No. This does, slowly reduces. So obviously, if there's a lot, there will be very important negotiation about the particular schedule of reductions on the cap that that we have adopted in the bill that came out of the committee. There'll be negotiations on the subsidies that we create, which are quite substantial and based on the allowances that greenhouse gas emitters buy at the auctions that we're ordaining and creating here. What I'm saying is that I think we've got a good bill that came out of the committee, but it's not, this is not, you know, etched in stone from Mount Sinai. So I think we've got to be open to work with one another to see if we can accommodate some of the concerns that people on both sides have of this, both sides being those who are focused on the environmental side, those are concerned as emitters about how they're going to live with this, and see if we can keep us together. So I prefer to leave it there. I guess if it comes to a point where, because let's be honest about this, there's a kind of balance here. On one hand, we're trying to do whatever we can to get to 60 votes so we can pass this law. So I'm not going to say that this is so perfect that I'm not going to change anything in it if that'll help me get to 60 votes, because I want to have America start solving this problem. On the other hand, you could get to a point where what's being asked to get to 60 votes effectively diminishes the reality of the bill, and it doesn't have an effect, and then you wouldn't do that. And so this is more like the famous Justice Stewart on obscenity. I'll know it when I see it. You know, I think we'll all know when we think the bill has been weakened too much, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think we've got something good going here. I'll just say another political factor maybe. It may be, I've heard some people say that some of those who are worried about what's in the bill, worried we're too demanding in this bill, may be willing to accept some things this year because they've got a president who's skeptical about the bill, if not downright opposed to it the way it is now. Whereas next year they're going to have to face not only a Congress where I think there'll be majorities in favor of a strong global warming bill, but a president who is similarly inclined. And that may help bring parties to negotiate a good compromise and get this done. I can't stress enough that this is a journey. This problem wasn't created in a day or a year or a decade. It's not going to be solved in a day or a year or a decade. What is critically important about this bill is that it creates a framework that allows us to begin to solve the problem so that 20, 40, 100 years from now, those who follow us on the planet will say, hey, they saw the problem and they dealt with it.